Now we turn to the Middle East, where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrives in court to continue his testifying in his long-running corruption trial amid intense political scrutiny. Meanwhile, Israeli forces have intercepted a Gaza-bound aid boat carrying activists carrying a small amount of aid, including climate campaigner Greta Thunberg. The British-flagged vessel named Madeleine was stopped overnight in international waters while attempting to break Israel's long-standing naval blockade of Gaza. Israeli officials confirmed they have taken control of the boat. All 12 crew members are reported safe. The yacht carried rice and baby formula as a symbolic form of aid, and Israel called the voyage a propaganda show in support of Hamas and proposed to deliver the remaining aid through official channels. The Freedom Flotilla coalition, which operated the vessel, says the mission was meant to highlight Gaza's humanitarian crisis. The Foreign Ministry confirmed that the yacht was redirected after entering a restricted zone and is now being towed to Israel. All passengers are safe and will be returned to their home countries. The activists shared pre-recorded messages with Thunberg saying they were kidnapped in international waters. Israel says the small amount of aid aboard will be sent to Gaza through established channels. The mission was meant to highlight the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, where the UN warns of famine and disease amid the ongoing conflict. Meanwhile, the Israeli military has confirmed the death of senior Hamas commander Mohammed Sinwar. His body was recovered from a tunnel beneath the European hospital in Khan Yunis. He was killed in an airstrike on the 13th of May, and Sinwar was the younger brother of Yahya Sinwar, the man behind the October the 7th attack on Israel. Both were killed in the same region. Known as the Shadow, he had long evaded capture until he was finally tracked and targeted. We're now joined by Jonathan Hoffman, who is a former Vice President of the Zionist Federation of the United Kingdom, and he is in London and joining us today. Jonathan, thank you very much for joining us. I first of all briefly want to touch on Netanyahu's trial, which has just kicked off once again today, where he has to testify. This trial has been going on for 5 years, Jonathan, and the Prime Minister of Israel, he claims political persecution, but how credible is defence after 5 years of scrutiny?
The trial, in my view, is an attempt by the opponents of the Israeli Prime Minister to achieve through the courts what they failed to achieve through the ballot box. The charges against Netanyahu are flimsy. The evidence is not substantial, and I think this trial is really a waste of public money in Israel, and I don't see the verdict going against the Prime Minister. I think it's just a distraction, and a distraction at a time when his attention should really be fully focused on seeing the end of Hamas in Gaza and repelling the various attacks on Israel from the Houthi in Yemen, from Hezbollah in Lebanon. I think this is just really a terrible distraction from what he needs to be doing as Prime Minister.
Yes, and Jonathan, along with this, Netanyahu is obviously facing mass opposition from both internationally and domestically. We see visuals of thousands lining the streets in Tel Aviv, all protesting against the Prime Minister, and also obviously the return of the hostages and an end to the war. As the first sitting Israeli leader to testify, is Netanyahu muddying the image of Israel in any way in his terms, both in the war and domestically in regarding this case?
So, sorry, can you repeat the question?
So is Netanyahu, how do you think Netanyahu is portraying Israel on both the international stage and domestically?
Well, I think he's doing a good job. I mean, it's it's a job nobody would envy. I mean, he has to balance, on the one hand, freeing the hostages, and there are still some 30 plus hostages, including those not living, who have to be freed. He has to balance that against, on the other hand, freeing Israel from the terror of Hamas. And those two objectives often clash with each other. If the Israeli Defense Forces are too strong in trying to repel Hamas, the risk is that some more hostages will die. I mean, nobody could want that job. Surely it's a desperately difficult job, and I'm surprised that Netanyahu hasn't gone crazy with the stress of leading this kind of nation. And really, anybody who criticizes him, would they want to do a better job? Could they do a better job? I don't think so. So it's a terribly difficult job, and
yes,
anybody with any heart would wish him well in that job.
Okay, Jonathan, let's move on. Let's talk about this activist ship that was stopped by Israeli forces in international waters. 12 activists were on board, including Greta Thunberg and a French member of parliament. The boat was carrying aid, symbolic aid, they say, which included rice and baby food. Jonathan, Israel labels the Madeleine mission as propaganda supporting Hamas, yet activists call it humanitarian. Who decides between protest and threat?
Well, the anti-Israel forces had tried this before. This is not the first ship that's set sail for Gaza. None of the ships have been allowed to land in Gaza, and it is propaganda. And I'm shocked that Greta Thunberg agreed to join this crew. And there were people on this crew. There was a member of the European Parliament. There was somebody who has a record of saying very nasty things about Israel. And it was purely a publicity stunt. And I don't think anybody who wasn't persuaded before about the wrongs of Israel's force in Gaza will be persuaded by this. I think it was just a pointless and expensive publicity stunt. I don't know who funded it. Presumably it was Iran who funded it, but
yes.
The Israel Defense Force quite rightly intercepted the ship. They gave the crew sandwiches, apparently chicken sandwiches. Apparently, reportedly Greta Thunberg, who is supposed to be a vegetarian, relished her chicken sandwich, and they gave them water. And the aid,
right,
the fraction of aid that was on the ship was included in the next aid package to Gaza. There have been 11 million meals sent into Gaza by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
Yes.
There have been 12,000 aid trucks in the last 2 weeks. So really, this is the aid on this ship was a drop in the ocean.
Yes.
Compared with the aid that's going into Gaza.
But what the Madeleine has said is that it was a symbolic mission by these 12 activists. Israel, however, Israel Katz, the defense minister in particular, has described it as PR for Hamas. Now, the international community has seen the images coming out of Gaza. It's quite evident there is some sort of a dire humanitarian crisis going on there. What is PR for Hamas about bringing over baby food and rice into no matter how little it is, into a humanitarian crisis?
I think from the evidence that we have, there is no humanitarian crisis in Gaza. There's been no evidence of people starving. When there was peace, there was plenty of aid went into Gaza, enough aid to feed the population. But let's remember that one of the reasons that this new mechanism of aid was set up, this Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, was that Hamas was stealing the aid that was going in through United Nations and selling it at an inflated price. So, you know, I don't see any evidence of a shortage of food. I don't see any evidence of people starving. I think that this is a myth put around by people in the media who are not on the side of Israel. I don't see any issue there.
Jonathan,
you know,
thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Unfortunately, we have run out of